We back in this bitch. Finna play what's your face this game, and you gonna have fun, right? Oh, better. Don't worry, she's not taller
I'm not
than
tall
me.
at all.
She's not taller than me. I'm just not sitting up in the booth. I'm just so much smaller on this
Not
screen.
this part.
Mm-hmm.
I did, and it didn't work.
How about that? There we go. Ooh, boy.
What you mean? Oh no, it's a different game.
Got
How
it.
to say look, I already know. That's me.
No, we supposed to switch. Hold on. Cause you like to be the Dixie. You go. You just finding her on your clothes. Yeah, that's how you play this game. Hey, I thought we did this. Oh no, that was that one. Damn, wrecked.
Yeah. Man.
You stupid, ugly, doodoo lip. They switched it on y'all. They tried to get you. Go, go, go. It's not worth it. Go to the right. Unless you want, nah, let's play the whole board. Don't cheat. Damn it. You did it.
You said go to the right, and then.
Man, it was nothing there.
No, I ain't doing this shit. I don't like this board anyways.
I shouldn't have told you to go there. Hey, I'm finna do this just for the love of the game. Cause I like to see Granny do her workout dance. Doom, 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 doom. And the more birds we find, the more birds be in her safe place. Oh man. Oh, come on. Oh, wait. Take me back. All the way back. That's it, right there. I don't remember. Go up. Up. All right, over, forward. How about, yeah, no, go back some before I hit that water. So about right, yeah, about that. All right. Damn it, do it again. Oh, never mind. Yeah, do it again. I gotta try that shit. I think that's what I'm supposed to do though. Damn it. It's a bonus up there. I'm folding under pressure, man. There we go. I'm folding under pressure, dog. It sucks. Baby, you gotta be my motivation. Shit.
Oh god.
Man, I'm just.
Oh god. You cutting it closer.
I'm just trying to scare you a little bit. That's all. Oh, come on, man.
You're too big.
Bro, stop cheating. Oh. That was it? Man, take me back. We gotta beat that timer to get that thing. I straight thought it was gonna be something important. Yeah, right there. Sorry, no more takebacks. Alright, go. No more takebacks. Go. We supposed to beat that timer. I think the log or some shit moves. They was trying to get you. Had to get there. Good stuff, baby. Damn, I think whenever we go to that shop with the bear, we talk to him and he'll see that we beat the time or some shit. I probably got throw it up there. Shit. Hey. Was there a barrel back here? One of these got something on them though. No, not that one. No, one of these I think it's on this board. She said that one ain't it. Oh shit. I can't believe I just died like that. And we gotta start from the beginning. You got it, baby. Yes. I'm holding up, doofus. Oh my god. Am I gonna die here again? I gotta get you back. When will I get Cece back? Where she at? Where she at? Holy shit. It's this one. Just because. Thank you. Just in case.
Man.
15 minutes. I still let you do this one. Yep. Awesome. Give me the banana. Damn. Okay. If you'd have just threw it up the first time, you suck. There we go. There we go. Oh, shit. Goofball. Boo-boo. Go, baby, go. What you feel? Feel paranoid. Aw? Aw? Oh, these dudes. Wow. Damn, we all the way back here. Man. Gone. Gone. Almost was gone. Peace. Come on with that throw, boy. Come on with the throw, boy. Can you take me back up? Second room, right there. What's this? I did for real? You don't know me. So what's this about? Bye. Bye. Yeah. We did it. We did it. Yeah, you usually cold.
I'm hot. I'm alright.
You like, I'm freezing. This one not too bad. That was the best one. Amazing music and nice platform. Parkour. Here's a parrot. Oh. Them bananas.
Man.
Go get the nickels.
Okay. Bonus banana?
I think so, yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit. Why they do that?
Ooh, we kill him. Oh,
Hey,
care.
but I was gonna die. What are you even doing?
We got infinite respawn. Infinite live.
They try to get
Aw. Aw.
you.
It's still baby. What's the plus line?
Oh. Now
We
they
got the
were
oven on.
no.
Hell, it gets so hot.
Now they were trying to take the switch and then stone banded after the timer on.
And no, Danny, it's not a timer. You play as long as you like. We let you know it's time to get off. Crazy, he just tries to play the game like that.
I think that's here or down here.
Oh shit.
Girl.
I wasn't ready. Why you smashing at me? Yeah, cause you snatched from me. You threw out my whole body.
I died for no reason. I went back for the element after.
Are you fucking serious? We needed each other. There's something else. Oh, is that not this place? Must not have been this place. Maybe it was the first one, I think.
Probably BK.
Yeah, if I don't have a yellow thing, then it's the DK thing. And then if you say we find, like how that flag, how they dangling, that means we missing another bonus thing. And if we got the DK thing, it just be dangling like that with a yellow flag.
Capital talking about.
Yes, ma'am. You finna get pissed off that I'll be this time. I've held the record for the song.
Last
You
2
made me
years.
so angry I could start turning up.
I love your pride.
Prior to that cave right there. After we beat this book. Gonna let you have at it. Oh, I guess so.
Dead.
Oh,
A fish.
Piranha.
no.
Don't do it. No.
Let's see what's in the water. Yep. Not
Don't go in
friendly
the
water. Water is not friendly.
Did that drink the water?
Yeah, get on the barrel. And I think it's down in one. X. One of them.
Hey.
You gotta shoot that turkey above them.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump into the water.
Oh, don't do that.
No. Aim them up and make a path for yourself. If you throw them too far, they're not gonna stay in the water. Yo, water nasty, yo.
I say, yeah, tripping now.
Hold up and how you can control me, you should be able to.
Oh, you can't swim. He be slippery, man.
I was just gonna say slippery. Oh shit.
I can't make it back.
He missed. He whiffed.
Had to concentrate on that throw.
There we go. You got it, baby.
That's funny. I jumped right into the water.
Oh.
You said not far enough.
Okay.
Get some water.
That's what I was gonna do. The bee made me nervous. Oh my god.
And try jumping on him.
On the bee?
Yeah. I don't know if we could or not. Sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna shoot you.
Fill up.
Yum, 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 yum. What?
Do it again. Take it with you. Pretty sure it was. Damn.
You
Go grab it. Down. So I really want this.
Then he started floating away fast.
Mm. What?
Oh my god. I like that.
Just jumping regular through it.
They trying to set
Go
me
jump.
up.
Damn. How do you get that jump? Go back, cause I think that's where that damn bonus is at. You gotta go back. Alright. And try to jump high as you can on that jump. Go back. Back. Nope, back small, right? I don't know. Okay, yeah. Yeah. My bad, baby.
Oh, and then I'm gonna do it again. What the hell?
Once you
my
take it
girl
off the
go?
screen and respawn, it's on. Start jumping down. Told you ain't go far back enough. Go back. Go back. Right there. Oof.
What happened?
Back.
Oh my god.
Right there. Now around the jump. Where it's coming down.
I think I saw some. Maybe I need.
Because you're too close when you grab it. As soon as he picked it up, it hit me. I thought you was going to stand on it or something.
I thought it was going, something heavier.
How are you going to turn back? Take the baby elephant.
You ever even stack them? You bitch, you ain't moving. Okay.
I don't leave it alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so one. What shoot? What? Feel close. She was nervous. It was understandable.
Damn, my leg. Ugh.
And then that music lets you know you got it all. Yeah, boom. Oh shit, it's on me. How you do that? I'm saying didn't register. Got another birdie. Oh shit.
Oh,
It's easier with your
Spider.
person. Yeah, it's way easier with you. Cause she hold it right above her and all she gotta do is jump. I guess you can do it still. And just stand on it. Jump. He gonna spoon shit.
Block me.
Yeah. I was just gonna say he gonna start shooting them little pebbles at your ass. I should be able to get you back there, right?
Well, it makes sense to give us 2 lives instead of 1. You sat down.
I straight killed you.
I was wondering why she was running like that.
I straight just killed you, baby. I'm sorry, I did not try to do that. His last
I say I'm doing something. Oh, shit. Look at
Hit. Oh wow.
Oh, he tried to get you.
Yeah, he pissed off. He going cross-eyed and shit.
You got the band-aid.
Had to give him a little tea baggage, that's all.
He dropped the band-aid.
We're gonna use it to patch up our boat. Yeah, talk to him. I don't remember what he do or what he wanted. I've been watching your progress for a while, Daisy. The name, wonder. I went cross-eyed and I stopped being able to read. What did he say?
He said something about a lost world.
Oh, that shit in the middle, you gotta go circles around. But yeah, get out of here.
Where?
Go back to dude. And he gonna give us a better boat. Cause we got
You
that.
got a band-aid?
A patch. Oh yeah, that's what I needed. Hang on for a couple minutes. Those seconds, fuck minutes. We finna get us a cool new tub. CC rubber dub. The hovercraft, baby. Take it real easy. Then you come out zooming. Should be a whole while to go faster. Go up to that cave.
Push B to go in the door.
Okay. That was hard as heck. That made your brain get rattled. Nope.
Which
Gotta
one
go
do
to
we
the
gotta
grass.
go to?
Either one. Water boards or
I don't like it. Oh.
told you water boards. I hated this area. I'm cool with getting it over with. Or do this one. I actually hate both of these two areas we're gonna go do.
Push it up. B is swim. Why is swim down?
Why should be down? Hold down and we should be down.
Yeah, it should. But
yeah, hold wide and we go swim down faster. That's what.
I was pushing up and she was just floating down.
Because this just float up. You're not gonna stay up. We gotta keep on.
So why is it swim down? The down don't do down. It just float.
No brain weird. Why it's make you move fast and I go down though? You almost let me die.
You know, you should push why to swim down.
I am holding wide. That's why I'm swimming fast. I know there's something over here. I don't know. Let's get up out of here. Bro, go back. I'm not doing this shit over. They just pissed me off. Get me out of here. Why they cheat?
Find the coin. You couldn't find it.
Ah, this game is ridiculous.
Shouldn't be swimming underwater anyway.
Yeah, how the hell we breathing this one? We shouldn't be able to breathe this long. Wee. Hey, pretty. Little fart smellers. I might be 20. Perhaps.
What?
I'm just talking.
Uh-huh.
Oh! What's something? You could have went. It was pretty cheap.
They're cheap meat.
Oh yeah, they did. You think I'm just gonna take that shit? Can y'all stop so I can come by? Do it. Floating too much. Go back that way.
Yeah, well, okay. So that one just hit me.
Wow. Nope, go back. Fuck this game. Right here. Okay. What did I do?
I'm a fish. Yeah.
You a fish? Mm-hmm. You want to say you gonna be risky? Hell, wow.
No, that was some bullshit, and we all know it.
Damn cheating.
Man. Oh, I'm so finished. I got nervous. He was gonna get me.
Back. Right at the end, baby.
Oh, no.
No, I needed to, I think. Alright, now you stupid.
Thank you.
Got everything. Where'd it go?
I was looking. What was in your seat before you got up? Man. What you do to it? Yeah, the whole leaf is different. I ain't like the whole leaf for sure, but
Also, Ellie, I need a spot, lady.
Spot, what's that?
So sorry, Lord. Damn. You okay? You alright, baby? Do what?
Let's place this. There go your remote.
I found it on my lap. Oh, you said what was it? Not what it is. You looked at me like, bro, you lying.
Man.
What was it? Got the glass right there.
Cheating, man. For real?
That was wild. Them niggas moving quick. Look at that.
I got it on
Sit up.
before.
Yeah, boy, that's clutch though.
I died.
Take me back. Right there.
I see when I jumped on them, they laughed at me.
That's because you little. Bro, stop doing that.
They go,
I didn't want to be on that.
they go keep doing it till you jump out.
Yeah, I was trying to get out. Every time I tried to move to the side. Then you just got my ass. There we go. Oh my god. Bruh. Same thing. Just get me out.
There you go.
All that just to get to nothing. Come on, dude. I got nervous.
Oh, they ain't meant to go in. I thought I saw a girl. You said get to nothing. And I was like, man, where the girl at? I got nervous for you.
Why? There we go. I was a little nervous too, baby. I just gotta keep my game face on. Mother, oh yeah.
Oh, you gotta throw it in and beat them.
Yep. We missed the bonus. Oh, and now you get to see the flag and the. You want to see how many birds you got now? 4. Boom, 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 boom. All right, we finna turn the camera off for a hot second. We still finna jam the game though, but then turn camera off for a minute. And we shall be back, folks. Bing. Well, I said be back. Why you throwing me? I don't want to throw you.
You don't gotta throw me. Throw me. I'm gonna throw you.
You just gonna keep jumping with him?
Yeah.
Go back.
I could jump with them. I jump just as high as them.
Spin into him.
I was doing that shit on purpose.
That's how it's fun. You should go in the water.
No, it don't look safe. They following me just a little too hard.
Oh, go back.
He died.
I definitely should be there when you so you do not.
They tried to get me because I missed 5 seconds at the beginning.
Rewind.
Fell in the water, no.
Oh damn, you can't post shit on this one.
What you talk about my TikTok? I was like, I don't know what happened to my TikTok. I can't see, I can't like videos. I can't see any comments. All my videos deleted. I ain't do nothing though.
You know what you did.
Bruh, you finna play. It was that barrel right there that kept getting me.
You gonna take a video,
Taking videos?
making videos, whatever you want to say.
Jerry, what the
Oh, your stuff back.
Oh, that's a fucking shocker. See, it kept telling me no internet connection though, so. I don't get it. Holy fucking. All that.
Yes, all of that, baby. Of course. Yeah. Oh shit.
Hey, don't fucking post that shit.
What's what?
We get wrecked. I
I
thought you
can't
was
flip your
recording.
damn camera.
I was about to say, I thought you was recording the game and I jumped into that damn barrel. Bruh, stop.
Alright, we back. We back. I'm almost done though.
Did you even go to the next one?
You pull this one. Yeah.
No, I beat your ass for it.
I thought you said I beat your ass for it. I'm like, damn. What's wrong with this dip?
Look at, he laughed at me. I don't like you. You didn't see it. I didn't know it was gonna happen like that.
What happened?
So you see that O, right?
Yeah.
I went to go get the O, and I kept falling, and I kept falling, I kept falling.
You gotta throw me. Well, I gotta throw you.
I ain't know I was gonna throw you yet. That was gonna charge or some shit.
Well, actually, switch to me. I'll do you one better. I know, right? Cece spinning. She tripping. She spinning.
Bad.
I try to do it with you. Oh. Where we going? Left. To the left. To the left. Peace. Try again, sucker. Y'all whack as fuck for that. Boy.
Oh.
And you can get water out the falls. I think, yeah.
Oh, where you come?
Surprise! What's right here? He can step on him, I think. No, he can't retry. What did it say, dude?
I don't know.
Master baddies. Shit. I don't think he liked the water, see. Oh my god, okay. Take me back one more time. And I got you. So it's not getting the water, it's just gonna kill him. Oh my god, I'm trash.
He hiding the point. It's funny.
They just killed that. Damn, I gotta go hella far back. Oh, we could let it ride if you wanted. So he said, nah, I really didn't know. Oh my god, okay. I was saying, I gotta do the exact same thing. You get another chance to do the same thing. Sorry. Try again. Get out my face. Man, damn game play too much. Oh yeah. Oh, whatever the hell they want.
Man.
What the hell y'all want? They don't come back either. Hey, get my barrel back. Are you fucking serious? And I do the same damn thing. That was ridiculous. We got the hell up out of there. That's all I'm happy about. Let me try back. Your phone. Sure. My goofy ass trying to use fingerprint.
I'll be doing the same thing.
I better hurry up. He getting pissed. You gotta feed him. Fish. He getting pissed. Yup. Feed him the fish.
Eat it. No, I'm going back. Gotta make me eat. I didn't even see him. Alright, it's alright.
You alright, baby?
See him?
No, I think.
Are you gonna get mad when we right in front of you? He just ate him, I think.
He ate the other one, but I don't know if it make him more mad. Find them nanas. One more thing, got it. Peace. Yeah, you don't want to bring that shit back. Yeah, it makes me more mad. So we don't want him to eat that stuff.
I don't have to be phone cheap.
Mm-mm. So, I'm trying to do that. Don't blame me. Yeah. Oh shit. Man. Welcome back, babe. Here you go.
I should get something up there.
That was fast. Nope, never mind. Go, go, go. Man, are you going backwards? Huh? You definitely not. No, so what's right there? Oh. Now you can just piss yourself off. Goodness.
He should have went back to eat the fish and then said, "No, never mind."
Man, fucking doo-doo head. There we go. Eat them all. Eat them. The G over there. No. Why? Your ugly ass gonna eat them both? Hella ugly for that. I'm gonna say eat. What the hell? What's the point of getting you back at the end? Oh, is it the boss time? Oh god, good luck, baby. You got it. Very great. We're great. Get some water right now. He made you fold under pressure. I scared you too. I'm sorry. Water. Don't make me go. You gotta rewind this shit again.
Oh no.
Man. You sure got them swing just a little bit. Peace. 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 Oh, you son of a gun. I'm gonna die! I died! No! Cece, you wanna laugh at me? I see you. I was so close. I was balling. I was too confident. He just gave me a piece of humble pie. Oh, look at baby learning. Better get up out of there. Oh shit! Look at you.
I was like, I just punched that shit.
Get some more. Get some more. She started. Let loose. That's lit. Get some more. Oh yeah. Hey. You lucky hit the eyes one right there, because you'd have been destroyed. Alright. Piece of stuffing. Did Cece just teach the goat? Oh snap. Why ain't let me jump? Why you stink?
That's how you got jump.
Yeah, I tried, but by the time I tried, I started sliding. Piece of crap. There's some.
It was gonna cheat.
She still flushed it. Good as shit.
Oh, I forgot.
Come on. Oh shit. Hey, oh, ooh, boy. The scare. You did that on purpose.
Man.
Can't be doing that. Can't be doing that.
Alright, so you.
Alright, we gotta go get these what's faces. Come on.
The skis?
Yep. Oh, I need both of them. Damn, I'm hella rat. Alright, we'll be back then, homie. We will be back. Watch this. There it is. It's here. Alright, well, I'm not going to. Let me get this bullshit over with. Because now I think about it, this is worse. This is worse. Alright, let's do it.
Oh, this one.
Bro, that's the wackest thing ever. How I ain't make her jump? Go, baby, go. Smooth move, baby. Peace. Oh shit.
No.
Almost. Oh. Okay. I think the spider. I think so. It's a spider somewhere, right? Where the hell was he? You know what? F. Oh wow, it bounced on lava. Left, right. Oh, left, right. Didn't even see it happening. Oh, it's me. Those are the worst ones.
Yeah, I remember it.
Oh, I couldn't tell what that shit was. You called a mole flipper. She started panicking.
Man.
Got him. It's like, hey, you, come down here. Like he can't fly up somehow. Get him. Damn, one I died already.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna take on it. Wait a minute.
He almost got you. Uh-oh.
I fell to the board.
Go back. It just falls down, baby. I don't even think it goes in the water. Ooh, we. Both of us. Bye-bye. I was too busy trying to touch you. Wait. That don't sound right. Touch your arm. Like, you didn't have to bring me back. Nice job, homies. Oh, I wasn't looking. Ah! Oh wow, man, that was heartbreaking.
We went back then. I said, oh no, man.
There you go. You're gonna have fun.
It's that what the hey girl, no. I'm gonna die anyway. Hi, Jack.
Yep.
I can't see, Jerry.
How fast that shit look?
Yeah.
Man, you killed me. Get back.
I almost died.
Go back.
There's a door. What's on it?
Go back. There you go.
I can kill them all. It's that gas and then kill them
Ashley,
all. Fuck
come on.
Go back. She said, no, screw that.
They were trying to cheat me because I wasn't supposed to go back on that rail.
That's it. Almost.
Man. Oh, okay.
Come on. Why am I so boo-boo? Okay. I say it's one of them.
Hell no. I didn't even do that intentionally.
Man, I'm hella sad. Nope. Well. What's the... You gotta be quick. Good one back.
I could.
A little bit further. Oh god, yep, you right, die again. Oh, there it is.
People should just
Damn.
should just left it at what it was.
You the one keep rewinding. Yep.
It just wasn't meant to be.
You should have tried it 10 times.
Probably did. Shit. You should
Almost
leave me.
didn't get you. Bye-bye. One when he dropped. You dusty dugan. Yeah, that's just it. Everything just so funny. Oh my god. Why? Why would you drop like that?
Hell no.
We did it. We got everything too. Get us out of here. Could have did a mini game. Through the oh shit, run.
It's gonna get me.
Ooh.
It's not coming fast enough though.
That's from the break. You got me stuck. It must start making me go left and right.
It did.
Fast enough. Go back. Oh, piece of shit.
That's what you get for playing around.
I couldn't help it. It was taking too long, like you said. It ain't quick enough. It wasn't though. Gonna get me back. What's that B over there for?
Alright.
Oh, there we go. Why did they do her like that? Nope. Da-dee-da. Oh yeah. Where my Cece at? Cece! Yeah, I'm sad I didn't get you. That's why I screamed like that. You got me fucked up. Yeah, you're hilarious. Peace. I didn't even see that shit.
Man.
We gotta do like a spin, like you finna fall and then jump. Like how you do the run, how she start her run. Yeah, it's weird time. It's something gotta get used to it a bit.
Alright, so what I'm gonna do is fuck that coin.
Karma's a bitch.
I know.
Got that coin like that. Go, go, go. Peace. Gotta catch us, buddy.
I stopped running.
Oh, shit. Oh, my God. That motherfucker started coming. Oh, that was a bonus out there, too. Like, oh, shit.
Fuck that. Ready for the fuck up?
Man, get me out, dog. Fuck on banana.
Man, I love you died right at the end again.
We got the heck up out of there. So we climbed through a tree, got up out of there, and now we're going.
I learned that.
You know it's funny though. But when they actually do that, they said we don't choose to do that shit too. But people don't say I said it. If they don't because I'm sure I would be like, don't say I said it. No ass though. I don't know what the hell is going on with that guy down there. Wait a minute. That's it.
Do you hold the A button after you, the jump button afterwards?
Which one's the jump button?
B. What's up?
I was gonna tell you. I took it before you started this one.
You still on me?
What the TNT?
Man, get me out of here. Oh my God, Cece. Why you keep doing this to me? Come on, bro. How I'm supposed to know? Damn.
What?
Oh, Cece has set me up. So yeah, what the fuck? What's the spider? I'm so confused.
Man.
How you gonna put me back in?
You never died. You wouldn't have been dead. Maybe. So why would I go backwards? Go backwards real quick. There was a spot up that looked like you can go.
Good call. Oh. Sniped. What the hell? Get out of here. Go.
You died.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Oh, Melly. Get out of here. That happens. Oh.
I don't even know what I do.
Probably just going on. You want straight into it? Oh my god. It's still baby. Hit it. Oh, like jump on. Go. Where he was shooting bombs.
You know what?
Go back. Go back down where dude was. To the left. To the left. In the middle, where the decayed sign was. And jump across. See if we can jump across. Just dropped in the barrel. Somebody Spider-Man. Out of person. You could have did it. Bye. possible. You piece of shit. Oh no. What the? Miss one bonus. It's okay. Dude, we that much closer to getting the flip up out of here. Mm-hmm, they're in the box. We floating. Nope, we just floating. Whee! That's nasty. You like float. Oh. You floated. You floated
straight
weed up.
into him.
Why didn't they put these? I was about to say, why didn't they put these on Smash Brothers? They should have, though. They put all of them on it. No. This game bonkers. Fine. Oh, that was Mally. Jeez.
Right. No.
Oh my goodness. Alright, folks. Finna get off of here. Call it quits.
Save Mark.
And yeah. Be back at y'all later on. Probably about another hour or so. And probably be playing Son of a Witch or something. Yep. Till next time. Peace.